now." A sailor at the rear spoke down to those in the hold below. "Forward!" And the hortator raised one hand and then brought its heel down on the drum between his knees. At the sound of the first beat, the slaves chained to their seats raised their oars, and on the second beat they lowered them and pulled as one. The word had been passed, but the master of slaves who walked between the banks of oars repeated it. "Silently, my darlings, I'll kill the first of you who makes a sound above a whisper." The ship inched forward, picking up speed. At the prow, Newt crouched, intently scanning the water before him. He had never been so frightened in his life. He was a born pirate, a dock rat from Port Natal, who had worked his way up from being an ordinary seaman to being one of the best pilots in the bitter sea. Newt felt Bear standing behind him. He had worked for the enormous pirate before, once taking Quegan prize ships as they returned from raids along the Keshian coast. Newt knew he was likely to die tonight. Since Bear had expropriated Newt's crew, it had simply been a matter of time. Something had changed Bear, made him far blacker a soul than before. He had always been a man of few scruples, but there had been an economy in his business, a reluctance to waste time with needless killing and destruction, even if he was otherwise unfazed by it. Now Bear seemed to relish it. Bear had made one thing clear above all else. This mission's goal was to take a holy relic from the Ashapians, and any man who interfered with that mission would die. But he had also promised that the crew could keep all the rest of the Ashapian treasure for themselves. When he heard that, Newt had begun to make a plan. Newt had insisted upon several practice sorties, claiming that the tides and rocks here were treacherous enough in the daylight. At night, 1,000 calamities could befall the unprepared. Bear had grudgingly acquiesced to the plea. What Newt had hoped would happen did. The crew learned to take orders from him once Bear gave over command of the ship. Bear's crew was made up of thugs, bullies, and murderers, including one cannibal, but they weren't terribly intelligent. Newt's was a daring plan, and dangerous, and he needed more than a little luck. He gauged his distance and the motion, then turned and shouted past Bear, "1 point to port! Ramming speed!" Bear echoed the command, "Ramming speed!" Then he shouted, "Catapults! Ready!" Flames appeared as torches were quickly lit, and then those torches were put to large bundles of skins full of Quegan fire oil. They burst into flame, and the catapult officer shouted, "Ready, Captain!" Bear's deep voice rumbled as he gave the order, "Fire!" The lookout squinted against the wind-driven salt spray. He was certain he saw something shoreward. Suddenly a flame appeared. Then a second. For a moment, size and distance were difficult to judge, but the sailor quickly realized with a surge of fear that 2 large balls of fire sped toward the ship. Angry orange-red flames sizzled and cracked as the first missile arced overhead, missing the lookout by mere yards. As the fireball shot past, he could feel the searing heat. "Attack!" he shouted at the top of his lungs. The second fireball struck mid-decks, hitting the companionway that ran from below to the foredeck, and an unfortunate priest of Ishap was consumed in the sticky flames. He screamed in agony and confusion as he died. The sailor knew that if they were being boarded, staying aloft was not a good idea. He swung from the crow's nest and slid down a stay sheet to the deck below as another ball of flame appeared in the sky, arcing down to strike the foredeck. As his bare feet touched the wooden planks, another sailor who shouted, "Quegan Raiders!" handed him a sword and buckler shield. The thudding of a hortator's drum echoed across the waves. Suddenly the night came alive with noise and cries. From out of the gloom a ship reared, lifted high by a huge swell, and the 2 sailors could see the massive serrated iron ram extending from the galley's prow. Once it slammed into its victim's hull, its teeth would hold the rammed ship close until the signal was given for the galley slaves to reverse their stroke. By backing water, the galley would tear a massive